Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. My name is Daniel, and if there's one truth I've come to understand, it's that the small things in life don't stay small forever. People like to say words are powerless, that a joke is just a fleeting moment of humor, but I've learned otherwise. The way we speak to the ones we care about carries weight. I didn't always see it that way. I used to shrug things off, chuckle along, let it roll by. But sometimes, what seems like a harmless quip is a crack in something bigger, something you don't notice until it's too late. For me, it was one offhand comment from my wife, Sarah, that turned everything upside down. Sarah and I had been together for years, and I never thought something so minor could rattle the foundation we'd built. Looking back, though, it wasn't just that one moment. It was a slow drip, a habit I hadn't fully clocked until it started to drown me. The signs were there, little digs I brushed aside because I didn't want to seem petty or fragile. But pain doesn't vanish just because you ignore it, and eventually I couldn't keep acting like it didn't matter. We'd been married for 6 years. Before we tied the knot, we sat down like any sensible couple and mapped out our future. I'd focus on my career, keeping us afloat financially, while Sarah would handle the home and, later, our kids. It made sense to us both. I worked a steady job in tech, pulling long hours, and she'd always dreamed of being a hands-on mom. At first, it was smooth sailing. My job wasn't a simple 9 to 5. It was more like 8 to whenever the email stopped. I juggled demanding projects, clients who wanted miracles, and deadlines that didn't care about my well-being. Some nights, I dragged myself home exhausted, barely able to string a sentence together, let alone pitch in with chores. But that was the deal. I provided, and Sarah held down the fort. She had her hands full too, running a house and raising 2 kids. Our son, Ethan, and daughter, Lily, was no small feat. I admired how she kept it all together. Meals on the table, clean clothes in the drawers, school runs, doctor visits, the works. The kids were thriving, and that was what counted. But somewhere along the line, Sarah picked up this habit of poking fun at how I handled things with them. It started innocently enough. If I fumbled a ponytail or gave them cookies too close to bedtime, she'd grin and say, "Oh, Daniel, you're hopeless." I'd laugh it off at first. Truth was, I didn't grow up braiding hair or memorizing nap schedules. It wasn't my territory, and I was still figuring it out. But the jabs didn't stop. They grew. Every time I slipped up, mixing up which sippy cup was for water or forgetting to pack a snack, she'd roll her eyes and say, "You're the silly dad, but let's face it, you're pretty useless." I told myself it was no big deal. She didn't mean it, right? Just playful teasing. Except it wasn't just between us anymore. Whenever friends dropped by or her family visited, she'd trot out another story about my parenting blunders. Everyone would laugh, and for a while, I played along. But then it started spreading. Her sister smirked one day and said, "Daniel, I hear you're a disaster at bedtime." A buddy of ours asked, "So, have you mastered socks yet? Or does Sarah still have to swoop in?" Each time, something in me knotted up tighter. It wasn't just the teasing, it was how it painted me. I didn't mind being the fun dad, but now it felt like everyone saw me as a bumbling fool who couldn't manage his own children. I kept quiet, though, didn't want to rock the boat. But I started wondering, if this was the story Sarah kept telling, when did it stop being a punchline and start being who I was to everyone? One night, I came home wrecked. It had been a brutal day. Endless calls, a project imploding, a manager breathing down my neck. All I wanted was to kick off my shoes, sink into the couch, and recharge with Sarah and the kids. As I stepped inside, I heard voices from the kitchen. Sarah had her friend Jenna over. I recognized her laugh. I tossed a quick hi their way, too wiped to linger, and headed upstairs to change. Halfway on my button-up, I caught my name drifting up. "Oh, trust me, Jenna," Sarah was saying. "Daniel's a total mess with the kids. Last week, I left him in charge for an afternoon, and I came back to chaos." Ethan had marker all over his hands. Lily was eating cereal off the floor. And Daniel? He looked like he'd just run a marathon. Jenna burst out laughing. "That's priceless." Sarah kept going. "Honestly, it's like leaving a puppy in charge. He freezes, flails, and then just lets it all spiral." More giggles. I stood there, frozen mid-button, staring at my reflection in the mirror. It wasn't rage I felt. Not yet. just a dull ache. This wasn't new, but hearing her spin it for an audience hit different. I took a breath, finished changing, and tried to let it slide. Later, after Jenna left and the kids were down, I brought it up. Didn't want to fight, so I kept it light. Hey, Sarah, can we talk about something? She was sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone, barely glancing up. Sure, what's up? I hesitated, then went for it. The joke's about me and the kids. You know, the Daniel's a mess stuff. Maybe tone it down a bit? It's starting to feel, I don't know, off. She smirked, like I'd said something absurd. Oh, come on, Dan, it's just for fun. I studied her face. She wasn't trying to be mean. She didn't even see it. That was the kicker. I nodded, too tired to press. Yeah, forget it. But the unease didn't budge. Life kept rolling along, and I tried to bury the unease that had started gnawing at me. Work was a grind, the kids were a whirlwind, and Sarah and I fell into our usual rhythm. But her teasing didn't let up. It was like background noise I couldn't tune out. I tell myself it was fine, that I was overthinking it, but every little jab stacked up like bricks I didn't know I was carrying. Then came a day that tipped the scales. It was a Saturday, and we were headed to Sarah's parents' place in Raleigh for a family barbecue. Her folks loved hosting grilled burgers, homemade lemonade, the whole spread. Ethan and Lily raced around the backyard with their cousins. And for a while, I let myself unwind, sipping a beer and chatting with Sarah's brother about nothing in particular. It felt good, normal. Then, like clockwork, Sarah found her opening. It started small. She was passing around potato salad when she tossed out, "Oh, Daniel tried to make breakfast for the kids last week. Let's just say the smoke alarm got more action than the pancakes." A few chuckles rippled through the group. I grinned, playing along, even though I could feel my shoulders stiffen. No big deal, I told myself. But Sarah wasn't done. As the conversation shifted to parenting, she lit up, ready to entertain. "You should have seen Daniel trying to get Lily's shoes on yesterday," she said, grinning wide. "It was like watching a rookie astronaut. Total confusion, a little panic, and shoes on the wrong feet by the end." The backyard erupted. Her dad let out a hearty laugh. Her mom hid a smile behind her hand, and even her brother smirked. I forced a chuckle, nodding like it was all good, but something snapped loose inside me. I wasn't some hapless clown fumbling through fatherhood. I was trying. I worked long hours to keep us steady, and yeah, maybe I didn't have shoe tying down to an art form, but did that make me a punchline? The laughter faded, but the sting didn't. Later, after we tucked the kids into bed back home, Sarah flopped onto the couch with a yawn. "Hey, can you handle bedtime tomorrow?" she asked casually. Normally, I'd just say yes, but this time, something else came out. "Why? So you can tell everyone how I screwed it up again." She froze, blinking at me like I'd sprouted a second head. For a second, I thought she'd laugh it off, but then she tilted her head. "Daniel, come on, it's not that serious." It was a joke. That line again, just a joke. It was her go-to shield, like it erased everything. Just a joke when she told Jenna I couldn't manage an afternoon with the kids. Just a joke when she made me the family's running gag. Just a joke every time she chipped at the one thing I already doubted about myself, being a decent dad. My jaw clenched. Yeah, well, it doesn't feel like a joke to me. Her eyes widened, but I didn't stick around to hash it out. I grabbed my keys and walked out. I didn't have a destination, just drove. The streets of Durham blurred past, and I ended up in a quiet lot by some strip mall. Engine off, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. Not a "where are you?" or "are you okay?" Just Sarah's text. "Really, Daniel? You're that sensitive?" I stared at it, the words sinking in. Sensitive. Like I was the problem for feeling it. I typed back, staying in a motel. "Need a break," hit send, muted the phone, and tossed it onto the seat next to me. By morning, I was still there, bleary-eyed and running on vending machine coffee. When I finally checked my phone, Sarah's tone had shifted. "Daniel, where are you?" "I'm worried. Can we talk?" "I'm sorry. I didn't realize it hit you like this. Please come home." It was the first time she'd hinted at getting it, but I wasn't ready. I let the silence stretch, crashing at the motel for days, dodging the inevitable. Then, one morning as I was shaving in the motel's dingy bathroom, my phone rang. Not Sarah, her dad, Paul. That threw me. Her parents weren't the type to meddle. I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. "Hey, Paul." I answered, bracing myself. His voice came through steady but direct. "Daniel, We heard you're at a motel. Mind if we talk? I sighed. Sure. He didn't beat around the bush. What's going on? So I laid it out. How Sarah's jokes had piled up over years, turning me into a caricature I didn't recognize. How I'd sat through that barbecue, grinning while they laughed at me, pretending it didn't cut. How it wasn't just one moment, but 1,000 little ones I'd let slide until I couldn't anymore. There was a long pause. Then he exhaled. I hear you, Daniel. I do. I wasn't sure I bought it at first, but then he kept going. People don't always see what their words do till it's too late. I've been there. Said things I thought were funny that weren't. I don't think Sarah meant to hurt you, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It was the first time someone had validated it without brushing it off. Then her mom, Claire, came on the line, her tone softer. Daniel, we know Sarah loves you. She didn't mean it, but she's starting to see it now. She's been a mess, replaying everything. She knows she went too far. I didn't say much. Part of me wanted to dig in, stay gone a while longer, but another part, the tired part that still loved her, felt a shift. They weren't excusing her. They were seeing me. Paul spoke again. I'm not saying rush back if you're not ready, but you two need to talk. Really talk. Can't do that if you're hiding out. He had a point. I couldn't dodge her forever, and if she was actually listening, maybe it was worth a shot. Okay, I said finally. I'll head home after work, but I'm not pretending it's all fine. Claire's voice was gentle. We wouldn't ask you to. Just talk to her. That night, I drove back, steeling myself for whatever came next. The drive back to the house felt longer than it should have. The familiar streets of Durham stretched out in the dusk, and my hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. I didn't know what I'd say when I walked through the door, or what Sarah would say to me. Part of me still simmered, replaying every offhand comment she'd ever made, every laugh I'd faked to keep the peace. But another part just wanted to get it over with, to see if we could salvage something from the mess. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my stomach was a knot. I stepped inside, and there she was, standing in the living room, arms crossed, eyes flickering with something between relief and uncertainty. Ethan and Lily were already in bed, the house quiet except for the faint hum of the fridge. Hey, I said, dropping my keys on the counter. Hey, she echoed, her voice softer than usual. Neither of us moved for a beat, like we were sizing up the space between us. Then she took a step forward. I'm glad you're back. I nodded, not ready to let my guard down. Yeah, we need to talk. She didn't argue, just gestured to the couch. We sat, not close like we used to, but not miles apart either. The silence hung heavy, and I could tell she was waiting for me to start. So I did. I've been thinking a lot, I said, staring at the coffee table instead of her. About how things have been. The jokes, the way you talk about me, it's not just funny to me anymore. It hasn't been for a while. Sarah shifted, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I didn't mean it like that, Daniel. You know I don't think you're useless, right? It was just, I don't know, a habit. Something to laugh about. I looked at her then, really looked. Her face wasn't defensive. She seemed genuinely thrown, like she was piecing it together for the first time. Maybe you didn't mean it, I said, keeping my tone even, but it still felt that way. Every time you told someone I couldn't handle the kids, it stuck. Friends, your family, they all see me like that now. And I started wondering if you do too. She flinched, just barely, but I caught it. I don't, she said quickly. I swear I don't. I guess I got carried away. It was easy to play it up, get a laugh. I didn't think it was hurting you. I leaned back, rubbing my hands over my face. That's the thing, Sarah. You didn't think about it. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to make it a thing. But it built up. That barbecue, it wasn't just one joke. It was years of feeling like I'm some side character in my own life. Her eyes dropped to her lap, and she twisted her fingers together. I'm sorry, she said, quieter now. I didn't see it. Mom and Dad talked to me after you left, and I've been going over everything. I didn't realize how much I was leaning on that, making you the punchline. It wasn't fair. I studied her, searching for the catch, but there wasn't one. She wasn't brushing it off or turning it back on me. For once, she was listening. I don't need you to feel bad, I said after a pause. I just needed to stop. I worked my ass off, Sarah. I'm not perfect with the kids, I know that. But I'm not a joke either. She nodded, swallowing hard. I get it. I'll stop. No more stories. No more jabs. I promise. It sounded sincere, but I'd heard promises before. Okay, I said, not fully committing. We'll see. The next few days were different. Quiet, but not tense. Sarah didn't bring up the fight, and I didn't either. The kids kept us busy. Ethan with his endless questions, Lily with her sticky fingers, and life marched on. But I noticed something. When her friend Jenna came over later that week, Sarah didn't launch into her usual routine. No quips about me forgetting Lily's jacket or mixing up Ethan's lunchbox. She just talked about the kids, her day, normal stuff. It was subtle, but it hit me. She was trying. Then one morning, as I was grabbing my laptop bag for work, my phone pinged. A text from Sarah. Hope today's not too crazy. You do so much for us. I don't say it enough. Thanks. I stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen. It wasn't grand or flowery, but it wasn't her style to be either. It was real. I typed back, appreciate it. See you tonight, and headed out, a little lighter than usual. Over the next couple of weeks, she kept at it. Small things, thanking me for picking up groceries, asking how my day went without that sarcastic edge she used to sneak in. It wasn't like she was suddenly a different person, but the shift was there. She'd catch herself mid-sentence sometimes, like she was about to tease me, then pivot. Once, when I botched tying Lily's shoes again, she just smiled and said, "You'll get the hang of it." No punchline, no eye roll. It threw me off. Honestly, I'd gotten so used to the old pattern, but I wasn't ready to call it fixed. The hurt didn't vanish overnight, and I wasn't about to act like it had. I appreciated the effort, but trust takes time to rebuild. So one night, after the kids were asleep, I brought it up again. We were in the kitchen, dishes done, just the two of us. "Sarah, can we talk about this for real?" She turned from the sink, drying her hands. "Yeah, of course. I see you're trying." I started, leaning against the counter. "And I'm not mad anymore. But we got to figure out how to do this better. I don't want to feel like I'm just the guy who pays the bills or the dad who's good for a laugh. I need to know you see me." She nodded, stepping closer. "I do see you, Daniel. I didn't before, not like I should have. I got lazy with how I talked about you, and I hate that it made you feel like that. I'm not just saying this to smooth things over. I mean it." I let her words settle. "Okay, then let's keep it honest. If something's off, we say it. No more letting it fester." She agreed, her eyes steady on mine. "Deal. No more careless stuff. If I mess up, tell me. I'll do the same." It wasn't a grand fix, but it was a start, a promise to actually hear each other. For the first time in a while, I felt like we might be on the same page. The weeks that followed our kitchen talk weren't perfect, but they were different. The air between Sarah and me had shifted, less like walking on eggshells, more like stepping into uncharted territory. We weren't fighting, but we weren't pretending everything was back to normal either. It was a slow thaw, a quiet effort to figure out what better looked like. The kids kept us grounded. Ethan's chatter about his latest dinosaur obsession, Lily's insistence on wearing mismatched socks. But it was the little moments with Sarah that started to matter most. She stuck to her word. The teasing stopped, not just in front of others, but even when it was just us. If I fumbled something, like the time I accidentally packed Ethan's lunch with 2 apples and no sandwich, she didn't jump on it. Instead, she'd shrug and say, "Yeah, he'll survive," with a half smile. It wasn't forced or fake. It was like she'd rewired how she saw those slip-ups. And she kept up the small gestures, texts during the day, a quick thanks when I'd haul the trash out after late shift. They weren't big, but they added up, chipping away at the wall I'd built. I wasn't fully there yet, though. The sting of those years lingered, a dull ache I couldn't shake. I'd catch myself waiting for the other shoe to drop, expecting a sly jab to slip out when her guard was down. It didn't happen, but the doubt stuck around, whispering that maybe this was temporary, that she'd slide back into old habits. I didn't voice it, didn't want to jinx the progress, but it kept me cautious. One evening, we had her parents over for dinner. Paul and Claire showed up with a bottle of wine and a box of cupcakes for the kids, their usual warm chaos filling the house. Ethan dragged Paul off to show him his toy T-Rex, while Claire helped Sarah set the table. I was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of chili, half listening to the chatter. Then it happened, a moment that could have gone sideways. Lily toddled in, her face smeared with frosting from a sneaky cupcake grab. I scooped her up, laughing, and tried to wipe her clean with a napkin. It was a mess, frosting on my shirt, her giggling like a gremlin. Sarah walked in, saw the scene, and paused. I braced myself, instinct kicking in. Here it comes, I thought. The quip, the eye roll, the "Oh, Daniel, what a disaster." But she just grinned and grabbed a wet cloth. "Team effort," she said, stepping in to dab Lily's cheeks. No punchline, no story setup. Claire glanced over, smiling, and went back to arranging plates. The moment passed, quiet and easy, but it hit me hard. She could have played it for laughs. Her mom was right there, an audience ready, but she didn't. It felt like proof, small but solid. Later, after Paul and Claire left and the kids were down, I brought it up. We were on the couch, a rare stretch of calm. "You didn't say anything tonight," I said, keeping my tone light. "About the cupcake thing." She looked at me, puzzled for a second, then got it. "Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't." She leaned back, tucking her legs under her. Didn't feel like it needed a commentary. "You handled it." I nodded, letting that sink in. "Just noticed is all." She studied me, her expression softening. "I'm trying, Daniel. I know it's not instant. I messed up for a long time. But I don't want you feeling like you're on trial every time something goes wrong." I met her gaze, and for once I didn't doubt her. "I see it," I said. "It's helping." She reached over, squeezed my hand, and we sat there, not saying much more. It wasn't a fix, but it was a step. Work kept me busy, deadlines piling up, a new project that had me pulling late nights. But Sarah started checking in more. Not just the usual "you alive?" texts, but stuff like "rough day? Brought you a coffee. It's on the counter." One night, I came home past 10, drained, and found a plate of leftovers wrapped up with a sticky note. "You're the best. Eat something." It wasn't dramatic, but it was her way of showing up. I wasn't used to it. Not from her, not like this, and it threw me at first. I'd spent so long feeling invisible outside the paycheck that the shift felt foreign. But we still had work to do. One Saturday, after a hectic week, I snapped at her over something dumb. Dishes left in the sink, I think. "Can't you just handle this for once?" I said, sharper than I meant. She froze, then fired back. "I've been juggling the kids all day. Cut me some slack." It could have escalated, but she stopped, took a breath. "Wait, let's not do this." I rubbed my temples, exhaling. "Yeah, sorry. I'm wiped." She nodded. "Me too. Let's just deal with it tomorrow." We didn't fix it right then, but we didn't let it fester either. It was new, talking it down instead of letting it blow up. A few days later, she caught me off guard. We were in the backyard, watching Ethan kick a soccer ball while Lily chased butterflies. Sarah bumped my shoulder. "You're a good dad, you know that?" I glanced at her, surprised. "Where'd that come from?" She shrugged. "Just thought you should hear it." I didn't say it enough before. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded, but it stuck with me. It wasn't about the words. It was that she saw me, not the caricature she'd built. By then, I was starting to trust it. Not all the way. The scars were still there, but enough to lean in. We weren't perfect. We'd stumble again, probably soon. But we were trying, both of us, and that was more than I'd had in years. One night, as I locked up the house, I caught her watching me from the hallway. "What?" I asked. She smiled, small but real. "Nothing. Just glad you're here." I didn't say it back, but I felt it too. The months that followed weren't a straight line to happily ever after, but they weren't a mess either. Sarah and I settled into something steadier. Not flawless, but real. The kids kept life loud and messy. Ethan's soccer games, Lily's sudden obsession with painting everything but paper, but the chaos felt less like a burden and more like ours to share. The shift between us wasn't loud or dramatic. It was in the quiet stuff, the way we moved around each other now. Trust wasn't fully rebuilt, but it was growing brick by careful brick. Sarah stuck to her promise. The jabs didn't creep back, not even on off days when I'd forget Ethan's cleats or let Lily nap too late. Instead, she'd pitch in. No fanfare, just a quick, "I got it," and we'd move on. It wasn't about keeping score, it was about balance. She still had her dry humor, cracking one-liners about the neighbor's yappy dog or my terrible parallel parking, but it didn't aim at me anymore. That made a difference I hadn't expected. I could laugh with her again, not at myself. I started opening up too, testing the waters. One night, after a brutal day at work, server crashes, a client meltdown, I didn't just crash on a couch in silence. Today sucked, I said, dropping my bag by the door. Sarah looked up from folding laundry. What happened? So I told her the details, the frustration, all of it. She listened, no fixes or quips, just nodded and said, "That sounds awful. Want a beer?" It was simple, but it felt like a door cracking open. I hadn't realized how much I'd stopped sharing, how I'd let the distance widen. We hit bumps, of course. One weekend, I zoned out while Ethan rambled about his latest Lego creation, and Sarah snapped, "Can you at least pretend to care?" It stung. She wasn't wrong, but I fired back. "I'm here, aren't I?" The old pattern could have taken over, spiraling into a fight, but we caught it. She sighed, rubbing her forehead. "Sorry, I'm just fried. He's been at me all day." I nodded. "Me too. Let's call a truce." We didn't hash it out, but we didn't let it sit either. It was progress, messy, human progress. Her family noticed the change too. At a Sunday dinner at Paul and Claire's, Ethan spilled juice all over the table, and I fumbled to clean it up, napkins everywhere. A year ago, Sarah might have turned it into a bit. Daniel's at it again. But this time, she just grabbed a towel and helped. Claire caught my eye later, smiling faintly. "You two seem good," she said. I shrugged. Getting there. She didn't push, but the nod she gave felt like quiet approval. Work stayed relentless. Late nights, early calls, but Sarah kept showing up in ways I hadn't seen before. One morning, I found a note taped to my laptop. "You've got this. Kids say hi." Another time, she dragged me out for coffee after a brutal week. No kids, just us. "You look like you need it," she said, smirking but soft. It wasn't about fixing me, it was about seeing me. I started doing the same, bringing her flowers after a long day with the kids, taking Ethan to the park so she could breathe. Small stuff, but it stitched us closer. One evening, we sat down after the kids were asleep. No crisis or agenda, just talking. I brought up the past, not to dig, but to understand. "Did you ever think I was actually useless?" I asked, half joking. She winced, then shook her head. "No." I leaned on that, because it was easy, made me feel like I had it together. It was stupid, and I'm sorry. I believed her. I should have said something sooner, I admitted. Let it build too long. She nodded. "We both messed up, but we're here now, right?" "Yeah," I said. "We are." That conversation stuck. It wasn't about blame anymore. It was about owning it and moving on. We made a pact. No more coasting, no more swallowing what bothered us. If something fell off, we'd call out, not to fight, but to fix. It sounded simple, but it took work, catching myself before I clammed up, her pausing before a reflex jab slipped out. We weren't perfect at it. Once she teased me about my cooking, then backtracked fast, kidding, "It's fine." And we laughed it off. Another time, I got short with her over a forgotten errand, then apologized. It was clumsy, but it was us. By spring, things fell solid. Not unbreakable, but stronger. One afternoon, we took the kids to a park outside Raleigh. Ethan kicking his ball, Lily chasing dandelions. Sarah sat next to me on a bench, sipping coffee. "You're good at this," she said, nodding at the kids. "The dad thing." I smirked. "Took you long enough to notice." She laughed, real and light. "Always noticed, just sucked at saying it." I bumped her shoulder. "You're not so bad yourself." She grinned, and we watched the kids in comfortable silence. It's not like everything's solved. Work still grinds me down some days. The kids still test us. Sarah and I will stumble. Old habits die hard, but we're not pretending anymore. I don't feel like a punchline in my own house, and she doesn't act like I'm just a guy with a paycheck. She sees me, flaws, effort, all of it, and I see her too. That's what's changed. It's not a fairy tale ending. It's better, a real one, with room to grow. As I lock up the house tonight, Sarah's already in bed, book in hand. She glances up. "You coming?" "Yeah," I say and mean it. For the first time in a long time, I'm not just here, I'm home.